This is Ms. Bierman, and today in this video, I want to talk to you all about a literary analysis. More specifically, what is a literary analysis? Now, a literary analysis sounds really, really scary, but it's actually something that you all have a lot of experience doing. In fact, you've already done a literary analysis twice this year, just so far. You wrote one literary analysis about The Lightning Thief, where you talked about how the author used the hero's journey to help the readers more deeply understand what was going to happen next to Percy Jackson. You also created a paper slide video where you analyzed how the tone of the story was humorous. So you guys actually already have a lot of experience with literary analyses. And put more simply, a literary analysis is a piece of writing where you discuss how the choices the writer makes impact the meaning. So you talk about all the different words or phrases that a writer used and how that helped you as the reader to more deeply understand what the writer was trying to tell you. Now, when you think about it, all this really is in a literary analysis is where you, the reader, create a piece of writing where you say, hey world, I just read this book or story or poem and I have an opinion on what I think it means. And in fact, I can back up my opinion with evidence from the text, words or phrases that the author chose on purpose to have an impact on the meaning of the story. Now, whenever you make a literary analysis, whenever you start to write one or even say one, you have to include a couple pieces. Now, most of this is going to be review for us because we're really good at using RACE to write answers. Now, you need to include an introduction. And in your introduction, you're going to say, I think that the tone of this piece of writing is blank. You're going to need to include a little summary of the passage that you just read. Now, just one or two sentences. Nothing really detailed. But this is really going to help the reader of your literary analysis understand what's going on in that scene so that they can understand better what your opinion means about the tone of the story. The next thing that you're going to need to include is evidence. You need to include 1, 2, maybe even 3 quotes from the story that back up your opinion about the tone. So if you think the tone is funny, you need to have a couple quotes or events from the story that show how funny it is. The next thing you need to include in your piece of writing, your literary analysis, is an explanation. Now this explanation shows how these quotes connect to your opinion about tone. You can't just add quotes from the story in your writing and then walk away, drop the mic and say, I'm done. I've got my evidence. No, you got to explain your evidence. You got to explain how those quotes show how funny the tone is. The last thing that you need to include in your literary analysis is a conclusion. Now, this doesn't have to be super fancy or even super complicated. In this piece of writing, all you're going to need to do is restate what you think the tone is. In conclusion, I believe that the tone of this story was humorous, and it made me, as a reader, laugh. That's it. So, I'm going to read to you a literary analysis. And I'm going to ask you while I'm reading it to go ahead and go to the description of this video and follow along. The text of my literary analysis is there. While I'm reading, I want for you to be thinking, how do I tell the world about my opinion on the tone of A Girl from Yam Hill? And then what evidence do I use to make my opinion clear and obvious? The author uses funny words and phrases to convey a humorous tone in the short story, A Girl from Yam Hill. In the story, the narrator describes some of the rules that her mother set for her growing up. For example, one rule is that she must not curse. The author makes this funny by having the little girl say that she likes to hear them curse. This is funny because little girls are supposed to act like little ladies, and they are definitely not supposed to enjoy profanity. Another example of a humorous tone is when the little girl remembers how her mother told her not to stare. She says that she was fascinated by her uncle's bald head. The word fascinated means very interested, and it shows that the girl really likes bald heads. Little girls are supposed to want long hair, so the word choice makes the tone funny. In A Girl from Yam Hill, the author uses many words and phrases to make the tone of the short story humorous to the reader. Now, by the end of listening and reading along with this literary analysis, it should be really clear what me, the reader, thinks about this story. I said that I think that this is a funny and humorous story because the author chose words and phrases and situations that made it really funny. Okay, see you next time.